This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Ping.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio.
Welcome to Spiritual Psychic with Sara Wiseman, where you'll learn how to unlock the secrets of spiritual intuition and your own psychic gifts. Here's Sara.
Welcome everyone to Visionary Psychics. I'm Sara Wiseman, and today we have with us our Visionary Psychics, Debbie. And you say your last name because I'm going to get it wrong. Go ahead.
It's CHOOLJIAN.
CHOOLJIAN, Debbie CHOOLJIAN. And so I guess I wanted to talk a little bit about your experience of sometimes like coming into your psychic self, or allowing yourself to know that what you were sensing was real. What was that journey like for you?
Yeah. So the journey of being a psychic, each step, like as I was learning and processing, each step would feel like I was coming home to myself. And so that's what kept me going, because there were a lot of times when I would feel out of my comfort zone. And so that feeling of I feel safe and it feels connected, that kept me going. So the other piece of it was I felt the more I worked with different clients was that, you know, we're all the same.
Mm-hmm.
And we all feel fear, and we all feel that need to be loved. So whether, you know, I was working with a lawyer or a homemaker, it didn't matter. You know, we're all at the core, we're all the same. The other piece, which was interesting, is that you think being a psychic, like everything's going to change, your whole world is going to change. And of course, things change because things are always changing. But what you come to discover is that nothing needs to change. It's just allowing your inner wisdom to grow. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And to reconnect with spirit and feel that strength and that inner wisdom within. And then you realize, okay, everything you needed was always here.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you feel like I felt living in a place where there wasn't hardly any acceptance of this work, at least? And that was, for me, it took a long time to negotiate with myself, like, well, this is what's happening, and yet here's where I'm living with a lot of a community that didn't have, like, this wasn't being talked about. Was that, it feels like that was part of what your process was too, of like, okay, but I'm going to go with what I'm experiencing. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was the piece, like that piece of, okay, when I'm doing the work, as I'm learning, as I, you know, was working with you, mm-hmm. I just always had that, I feel comfortable in my skin. This feels right. I feel safe. I feel at home. And so that was the piece. That was that visceral feeling that could get me through those moments of, like, maybe family or community were like, what are you doing?
Right.
You know,
right.
They didn't understand, and it wasn't accepted. I had things that I would advertise, I would find people would turn it around. So yeah, there were things that would happen, but I just kept going because it felt right and true. It felt true to me.
Yeah, I know that when I did my first rose, when I used the rose technique for the very first time years ago, I remember having this, like you said, visceral, like, oh, I know how to do this. It was like this crash of remembering, like this missing piece, or this remembering all at once. It was astounding. And no one in all the time of going through regular school, and no one had ever shown me anything to do with this imaginal, visionary realm. I just never had been exposed to it. And then when I was, it's like, I get this. I already know this. So easy, so fast.
Right. And you get confirmation too. You get
Yeah.
that affirmation especially when you're working with other people.
Yes.
And they're like, how did you know that? Or how do you see that? This is, sometimes I won't even know where we're going. I'm just listening to spirit, but it totally speaks to the client.
Yeah.
And so you're continually getting affirmation of
Yes.
what you're experiencing is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for your, what are the gifts that you enjoy, or like you find are the ones you like the best, or like, oh, I'm pretty solid at this one. How does that work for you?
For me, I would say a couple of things. Writing, number one, is so much comes through my writing that's so healing. Whether I'm writing in my journal or writing my newsletter, just the healing comes through that. So that's a strong piece of my work. Also, I feel I have a strong sense of humility. So when I'm working with others, I feel like there's just that connection of, that humble, down to earth connection that we all start from. I think that's a big piece of it too. And also I have a very strong sense of compassion and love. And that's developed too by learning to accept help and receive, and then you learn to give.
Yeah.
First you learn to receive that and experience it for yourself, and that develops that compassion and that love. And I would say the strongest thing for me, the foundation of my beliefs and my work, would be my relationship to nature.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've always had a very strong relationship there. It's my connection. It's my, you look to nature, and it's always true. There's always truth in nature.
Yeah.
And just the cycles and just the wisdom of it, of how it all works. That's been a very strong part of my work.
What I think is remarkable is, I've been doing a couple of these interviews sometimes together, and one of the other visionary psychics right before you, the subject also, I mean, it's just interesting. It also went to nature right away, and here so I think nature is wanting us to be aware of nature, especially. And the part of the world you live in, what is the nature like that like I know here in Oregon, it's the trees for me, and the birds, the big bird, like the eagles and the herons. And what kinds of parts do you feel your heart like, yes, where you live?
So I'm in central Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, and in the past I've lived in New York, and for me it's always been number one, the trees. Trees are just amazing. It's really all of it together, but if I had to pick one thing, it would be trees. And of course the animals.
Yeah.
They're always showing you the way.
Yeah, and they're always showing up I'm surprised now. It feels like when our awareness opens up, as it has been over the years, the more aware we get, the more the animals come forward to see, like, what's going on in that vibration, like what is that? And I think years ago I would go out and never see an animal, and now it's like, I hope I hope it's not a bobcat today. They're just like, because they just sort of flock forward, you know, they're just always sort of showing up. And yeah. So
I think too, the sky, I have to say the sky is a big piece of it. Especially moving from New York, and it wasn't the city of New York, it was upstate, but still moving from the East Coast to central US, the sky is just so expansive out here, and it's just amazing. I don't know, I just adore it.
And that's that sense of awe for nature, for the guides, for the other person that we're working with. I really liked what you said about it was, you were talking about compassion and this sense of oneness with others. And it really also, the piece that came to me is like, you sit with people with, like, there's no judgment. When we're doing this work, at a certain point, you tend to have heard it all from people. Like, there's no scenario that's gonna kind of shock you or like, oh, I heard that one last week. And so you sit without judgment, and that's so rare because so many people in their daily life are continually coming up against judgment for some reason. And just to sit with someone who's gonna just rest with them and take it in and kind of just sense what the bigger picture is really a gift to somebody. Yeah. What comes to mind that you'd like to share with people that you think about, or just anything that's coming to mind right now?
Well, yes, there is one thing that I would like to share, just about life and about how to move forward. So the biggest piece, and it's going to sound really simple, and that's why I trust it, is that it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds simple, and I know it can be challenging to hear those words sometimes, but it's going to be okay. And I always redirect myself back to what is simple, because that is what's true. And you know, we just want to keep moving on and learn as much as we can about ourselves, be honest, hold that integrity, and allow yourself, biggest thing, allow yourself to mess up, because life can be messy, and that's okay, because that's just the truth of it. And to allow that, you know, that sometimes that's hard to accept that. I think when we can channel life through acceptance of what is super important. To make friends with that, of whatever it is in this moment, and just try to befriend that, whatever it is, and be real, like, this is what it is.
Right.
And how can I find a way to make friends with this, and just open up to acceptance of what it is.
Yeah. I worked with a person recently that was really holding on to a relationship, and the person was, how can I, you know, they were so tormented by the relationship, and they were holding on so tightly. What will they be if I let go? And that's that idea of, you're going to be okay. Life is about the flow of change, and holding on does not make you safer than just relaxing into the universe and letting the universe support you. Like, not trying to fight what is happening in the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. The ebb and flow, the hills and the valleys, we all experience them.
Yeah.
And you know, it's part of our growth.
What do you think? I tend to think more now about getting older and what's ahead, and not so much in terms of any kind of earth or practical goals, but in terms of my own desire to expand in my own understanding of this work. What do you think, like, what's the farthest that you imagine yourself, like, as expanded, like in this lifetime? Where do you think you'll get to, or where are you trying to get to? And I don't have an answer. I'm just curious. I'm just like, what do you think?
No, I like that question. You know, in some ways, I think I'm different in this way, that I don't necessarily put in these goals or expectations. It's more about a feeling and an acceptance of what is coming ahead, and how can I show up in the best way that I can show up. And that is where I'm always bringing myself to. I'd love to see a shift in the world and be here when there is that shift in the world, when there's that compassion and that love and that non-judgmental vibration. That would be wonderful to be a part of that movement and that evolution. That's how I see it. Just to be present and filled with that grace.
Yeah. And even if we don't get to witness that, like, I always just think maybe next lifetime, like maybe we're putting some, steps in the path that we'll come back and see what we did.
For sure. I mean, on some level, we are already witnessing it, right?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, we're all a piece of it.
Yeah.
And we all experience it. Just like to see it really open up.
Do you notice, and this will be my last question, I think, I have noticed that more and more people are resonating with this idea of connecting into oneness, we'll just call it. And I'm noticing it more and more in, say, people that are, I don't know, 40 and older, and also like quite a bit in like the 20s, younger. It's a little bit different version, but I'm noticing like I didn't see this 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's like everyone's kind of getting into it all at the same time. Do you notice that where you are, or with the people you're working with? Yeah.
Yes. And I can even almost sense and pick out the difference in people, and as they're opening up, just the level of kindness that I see. I feel like the illusions that we were raised on are really breaking down. And as that illusion is breaking down, it's making that space for love and that truth of who we are to come through.
Yeah. And even that first step of even knowing that there is an illusion, like we don't see an illusion because it's just sort of within, we're just raised on it. And then looking and going, oh, where did this even come from? This doesn't even belong to me. And then releasing it and allowing something else to emerge. Yeah.
It's that moment when you can step out of it and see it from outside and say, oh, that's an illusion. Yeah, that's not real.
Yeah.
That's the first step towards opening.
Yeah. I don't remember like Peter Pan and his shadow, like his shadow kept getting pinned to him. I don't think it's the same quite metaphor, but it is like the illusion is sort of tacked on to us. We just got to like, no, we don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can let this go.
Right. And see what else is there. Yeah. Well, Debbie, thank you so much for your time. I sure appreciate it. And I will put where everyone can find you as one of the visionary psychics below. So I appreciate your time today and wish you the best.
Thank you so much, Sara.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.